Killing the rats you can see is not what stops them coming back. What stops them is something most people never even look at. And I'll show you exactly what that is in a minute. Because if you don't fix it, here's what you're actually signing up for: buying traps and bait every few weeks with nothing to show for it. And if you're using poison anywhere near an open run, you could be the reason a hedgehog or somebody's dog turns up bleeding internally after eating the wrong rat. Fewer rats seen feels like winning. It usually isn't. 55 years working the same ground taught me that the rats you don't see matter more than the ones you do. So we're going to go through why killing them alone fails, how these animals actually move through your garden, what's feeding them without you noticing, the water and shelter pulling them in, exactly where to seal up, and why poison so often makes this worse, not better. You trap for a week, the traps go quiet, and you figure that's that. It isn't. I've had a garden look clear for a fortnight and then come back worse than before I started. Here's why. Take out a big chunk of a rodent population and leave the food, the water, and the hiding spots exactly as they were, and the ones left over start breeding harder. And new animals move in from next door to fill the gap. The habitat didn't change, only the head count did. And the habitat is what decides how many rats it can carry. So the numbers climb back toward where they started. Change the habitat itself alongside the killing, and that rebound can be pushed back for months, sometimes longer, and it won't climb as high as it did before. So a quiet week of empty traps feels like a win, and I understand why. It isn't the same thing as a garden that can't support a colony anymore, and that's the gap most gardeners get caught in. Now, some of you are thinking, I've only seen one or two. This is overkill for my place. It isn't. A Norway rat rarely strays more than a few hundred meters from its nest, so one sighting usually means a burrow network close by, not a lone traveler. To fix that, you need to know how these animals actually live in your garden first. There are two kinds of rat in most gardens, and they don't live anywhere near the same place. Norway rats stay low. They burrow into the ground, usually right up against a foundation or tucked under something sheltered like a thick shrub or a stack of pots. And the hole itself is about 2 to 3 inches across, smooth around the rim from use. That smoothness matters. It's the same as reading a footpath worn into grass. Smooth and worn tells you it's used, and used often, not some one-off wanderer passing through. Norway rats come out just after dark, which is why you catch a shape at dusk and nothing all day. Roof rats are a different animal entirely. They climb. They nest up in rafters, in dense ivy, in the crook of a tree, and they travel in along branches or a power line rather than across open ground. You won't find a burrow for those. You'll find grease marks, dark smudges left high on a fence rail or a beam where the fur brushes past night after night. So before you set a single trap, walk your foundation line at dusk this week. Look for smooth 2 to 3 inch holes near walls or thick planting, and note where they are. You'll need that, because knowing where they live is one thing. What's drawing them there every night is the next problem. I keep a clean garden. That's the sentence right before someone shows me the exact things feeding their rats. Pet food bag folded over, not sealed. Chicken feed in a plastic tub with a lid that just sits on top. Grease on the grill grate. Windfall apples nobody picked up. None of that looks like food to you. To a rat working on smell alone, it's a laid table. Here's what I do on my own place. Pet food, poultry feed, birdseed, galvanized steel bins, lid clamped down, and I'll be straight. Those plastic totes sold as rodent resistant are a marketing line, not a promise. I've pulled out bins with a corner gnawed clean through. Metal holds, plastic doesn't, not against a rat working at it every night. Kitchen scraps go in a trench a foot down, covered over. Wash the grill, bag the garbage tight. Walk the yard for fallen fruit and dog waste on a set day, thinking a bin and some mesh is money you don't need. Compare it to what you're already spending on traps every few weeks with nothing to show for it. But locking up food only closes half the door. Water and shelter keep pulling rats in even after every scrap is sealed tight. You lock up the food and the rats are still there, and that puzzles people. A rat needs a drink, same as it needs a meal, and somewhere dark and quiet to raise a litter. A dripping tap, a gutter that pools instead of draining, ground under the hose bib that never dries, that's a water source, and rats use it every night. In some places, access to sewers and wet drains predicts an infestation better than food does. Walk your foundation and fix what's leaking. Now, the mulch. Deep mulch and leaf piles feel like garden business, not pest business, but pulled up tight against a wall. They're a rat hotel, and they're tinder and a home for ticks and fleas while they're at it. Pull mulch and stacked wood back a clear gap from your walls and sheds this week before anything else. Renting doesn't let you off entirely. You can still fix clutter, water, and compost habits and push your landlord on gap sealing. Plenty of areas hold owners responsible for pest conditions. Under a deck, hand clearing stops working. Trench 12 to 18 inches down, 18 to 24 out. Hardware cloth off the deck bottom, bent into that trench, backfilled. That footer stops the digging. Clearing the mess gets you halfway. Next is sealing the holes rats actually walk through. A mouse gets through a gap the size of a dime. A rat gets through a gap the size of a quarter. So walk your foundation, your vents, your pipe penetrations, and anything bigger than about a quarter inch is a door, not a crack. Steel wool packed in and sealed over, escutcheon plates round pipes, a proper door sweep on the shed. Nothing chewable. Now your compost bin. Plastic base, sitting on soil, feels tidy and isn't secure at all. Line the base with 16 to 19 gauge vermin mesh, fold it up the inside walls, and bury the whole bin about 200 millimeters into the ground, so there's grip, not just contact. I wire my own that way, and I'll say this plainly, an open heap cannot be made rat-proof with deterrence. Mesh base or it stops being open. Those are the two options. Feeders next. If you're not giving up feeding birds, fair enough, that's your call. But then it's baffled poles or weight-sensitive feeders, no mess seed, and the ground under it swept clean. During a bad infestation, pausing it a while is still the quicker fix. Prevention's done now. What you do about what's left is where people cause real harm. Here's why. Anticoagulant baits, the pellets in most bait stations, block vitamin K activation so the rat can't make clotting factors. It doesn't die quick. It bleeds inside and out over days, still moving the whole time. That's when a fox finds it, or an owl, or your dog. Eat a few of those poisoned rats over time, and you get the same bruising, the same internal bleeding, blood in the urine, cardiovascular shock in an animal that never went near the bait station. Other poisons, bromethalin, strychnine, zinc phosphide, bring on seizures and respiratory paralysis instead, and there's no antidote worth the name for either kind, just supportive care. On my own ground, I don't run poison. Locked box or not, that secondary risk stays, and I won't have an owl pay for it. If I trap, it's a snap trap in a covered, rodent-only box, set at night. And once the exclusion work's done, don't seal the last hole that same afternoon. Isolate it, tape wax paper over it, dust some flour in front, check daily. 72 hours clean, then close it. Seal too soon, and you've shut an animal inside a wall to starve. Now, the timing. Rats push harder for the inside of a building as the weather turns, moving along foundations and utility lines, looking for somewhere warm and dry. So, late summer into early autumn is when you walk the boundary again, before that pressure builds, not after you've already got droppings on the shed floor. And here's the part people skip. A seal isn't forever. The ground settles, metal corrodes. You dig a new bed or run a new hose line and open a gap you didn't mean to. So once a season, walk the perimeter. Test the vent covers with your hand. Don't just look at them. Check the mesh under the compost bin hasn't torn. Check the feeder baffle still swings free and the bin lids still seat tight. I know the objection. You don't have time to be doing this every few weeks forever. You're not. The hard work is the first pass. The food, the water, the shelter, the gaps. After that, it's a walk round the block with your own garden, once a season. The win isn't a quiet week. It's a garden that stops looking like food and shelter to a rat and keeps not looking like it. So tell me straight, food, water, shelter, or the gaps in the wall? Which one have you been letting slide? Put it in the comments, and I'll tell you if you've picked the right one to start on. Then, go outside and check it. Not tomorrow. Today, while it's still on your mind.